managed to get prime real estate in Mysore. That, of course, was more than 10 years ago. Yesterday, the entire Council of Ministers asked the governor to withdraw the motion asking the showcause notice to the Chief Minister of the state. Now, fundamentally, it raises one basic question. Can and does the governor of a state have the power to summon an elected Chief Minister, howsoever his alleged misdemeanor may be? So the question that's being asked, and this is fundamental to the whole question, is whether the governor has the powers to summon the Chief Minister.
Showcause notice can be given. He has not sent an arrest warrant. You understand? He has not given a sanction for prosecution. He has said there is a request like this and it's quite serious. It appears to be serious. Kindly answer this.
Cabinet has decided and to withdraw the notice.
We have requested, we have advised the governor to withdraw the showcase notice.
This will be the beginning of the end of the Congress.
All right, let's now go across to our panelists who are joining us. Sudha Halkai is spokesperson of the BJP Karnataka, who's joining us. I'm also joined by B.S. Arun, who's a senior journalist. Lavanya Ballal is spokesperson of the Congress Party in Karnataka, and Ashwini Dubey, advocate with the Supreme Court. Sudha Halkai, the point that's being made is the governor of any state is not an elected representative of the people of that state. The chief minister is. What business does the governor, who's an unelected representative, have sending a showcause to an elected representative? If the elected representative is in the wrong, approach the court, let the court issue showcause notice, and let the elected representative respond.
Zakar, the point is that take it any investigation agencies, take it the CID, take it the Lokayukta, and take it the SIT, whatever it is under the state government. And we have witnessed very well in the previous government where Mr. Siddaramaiah was a chief minister, that he had completely closed the Lokayukta when more than 150 cases were filed against the Congress leader. So we are expecting the same thing here. So why not the governor choose to send a notice to the chief minister where he is seeking the answer for the case which is put upon him, and it is very relevant. It is not that just like that the case has been put, and the amount what is claimed is very huge, and it is it questions the morality of the chief minister, who is supposed to be the custodian of the state constitutionally. So he has to answer that. Instead of answering, why they are coming up with the one or the other thing.
Lavanya Ballal, the chief minister is the custodian of the state, the custodian of the state government. If there are accusations against him, there needs to be a nod to sanction for prosecution against the chief minister. That was done by a gentleman called T.J. Abraham. In fact, that gentleman moved the same case against Mr. Yediyurappa when Mr. Yediyurappa was chief minister in 2014. The question is the chief minister above board of all of this? If the governor is brought to attention that there are certain misdemeanors allegedly against the chief minister, what should the governor do? Should he not issue a showcause notice?
Good evening, Zaka. Both the Chief Minister and the Governor have to function within the purview of the Constitution. What we have seen here in Karnataka is the 50-50 scheme of the Muda was sanctioned by the BJP government under Basavaraj Bommai, and they are the ones who have allocated all of these 3,000 sites in Mysuru to multiple recipients. Secondly, when the governor is sending a show cause notice, he skipped multiple constitutional steps that he's supposed to take before sending a show cause notice. He chose show cause notice despite there being a judiciary probe that is happening over the alleged scam. So the governor has chosen to bow down to the pressure from Delhi and disregard all the facts that are there of the case and take a decision and demand an answer from the Chief Minister. The Principal Secretary has written to the governor, which he's not considered at all. Now, the Council of Ministers have requested him to withdraw the show cause notice that has been sent to the Chief Minister. The question is, will the governor once again bow down to the pressure from Delhi and not follow the constitutional routes? Or will he work within the framework of the Constitution?
No, but Lavanya Balal, can I ask you a simple question? If there are allegations of grave misdemeanor against the Chief Minister, then who is the constitutional authority to ask the Chief Minister to reply to these concerns that have been raised? These are public interest litigations. These have been raised in the Assembly by the main opposition party, the BJP. Whose job is it to question the Chief Minister if there are these grave allegations prima facie against him and his family? The Chief Minister is well within his right to respond, but who should ask him that question?
First of all, everybody is aware of the constitutional framework. The governor has rights to ask the Chief Minister for the answers. What we are asking right now is not why he has sent a show cause notice. What the Congress is asking right now is why is in a hurry to send a show cause notice before the judiciary probe can come back with the answers, or for him to not respond to the Chief, Principal Secretary's response to his, questions. He's bypassing all the legal steps that he's supposed to follow. All we are asking is why is he breaking all the legal or the constitutional framework, and why is he in a hurry to come and ask answers from the Chief Minister?
Okay. So let me ask Sudha Halke to respond to that. Basically, what they are saying is the governor has no provision to show cause notice the Chief Minister. If at all there are allegations and grave allegations against the Chief Minister, please approach a court of law. Let the court of law issue notices to the Chief Minister, and the Chief Minister will respond to that. The governor has no business to be show cause noticing the Chief Minister. That's the contention of the Congress spokesperson. Let Sudha Halke, let Sudha Halke respond to it, please.
Let me speak. One thing.
Let Sudha respond, please. Ma'am, please. Let Sudha Halke respond, please. Thank you. Thank you.
What Lavanya Balal has spoken about the 50-50%. Zaka, let me tell you, this site, what they have purchased was way back in 2004. And the 50-50% was implemented by the BJP government in 2005. One clarification for that. Second thing is there are already more than 600 sites which are available in the same developed area of the Kesari Badavane, which was called earlier. Now it is Devdur Badavane or something. So, okay, instead of taking the sites over there, they have purchased the sites in a developed area we called as the most prime area of Mysuru, Vijayanagara, and that is 40 years back. So this area was developed in 1992. And 40 years back, they have claimed the area, one thing. And what Lavanya Balal is telling you, the Chief Minister, the Governor, they have to be in the framework of the Constitution. Do the Congress people have any ethics to talk about the constitutional rights?
Okay.
Where was this constitutional rights up there gone when 25,000 crores of the FGSC funds were given to the guarantees? Where with the 187 crores of the Valmiki Nigam was looted, and an officer had to sacrifice his life to open this pendulum of all this gaflas what is going on in Karnataka. And the Chief Minister himself has accepted in the floor of the Assembly that it is not 187 crores, it is 87 crores, which was mismanaged, and they have all the rights
Lavanya,
to
quick
send the
response,
funds
and then I want to go
Hyderabad
across to B.S. Arun
other
and
states'
Ashwini
elections,
Dubey after that,
but the
please.
governor
Thank you.
doesn't have the right.
Okay,
Zaka,
let Lavanya respond, please.
Zaka, let me make it very
Lavanya
clear.
respond, please. Thank you.
I did not say the governor has no rights. I said there are steps he has to follow before he can send a show cause notice. Having said that, the BJP needs to get off its high horse and start telling us why did they commit the Muda scam under Bommai. They are the ones who committed the Muda scam under Bomai. They are the ones who committed the Bogi scam. They are the ones who ran the 40% Sarkara. Today,
One second, please. One at a time. One at a time, please, ma'am, please. Let Lavanya finish, please. Thank you.
Today, it is very convenient for the BJP to come and say, hey, there is a Muda scam. They need to answer. Why did they commit the Muda scam under Basavaraj Bommai? They just need to say, why did they allot the properties that they claim that Parvati has today to Parvati?
So let me ask B.S. Arun this. Now, the interesting thing, Arun, is that, you know, Siddaramaiah as a chief minister, as a politician, his long, almost four-decade career, he has not seen, you know, any kind of individual personal accusations of corruption against him up until now. This whole Muda scam, his wife being the beneficiary, wife's family being beneficiaries. Does this change the perception of the chief minister in the eyes of the larger public? Or is the chief minister above board all of these accusations? Are these accusations being seen as politically motivated by the general public in Karnataka?
Zaka, for the first time, as you said, in his political life, Siddaramaiah is facing questions on the political personal integrity. So he has answers. There are many questions that need to be answered, which he has been doing. It's not that he's not been doing, or that he has not initiated inquiries. There are inquiries like the Judicial Commission that he has set up regarding the Muda case. But then there is always the issue of being a politician, the influence that he would use in getting the favors done in cases like this. So this, as well as the Valmiki Corporation's transfer of funds, these two issues are haunting the Congress, haunting the Siddaramaiah government, both personally as well as as a Congress party. So questions are there for him to answer. That is number one. Number two, Saka, there is a huge political issue here. Why the BJP has taken up, from tomorrow they are going on a Padyatra from Bangalore to Mysuru. Yeah. Mysuru is sort of the epicenter of this entire issue. And the whole, the route is a JDS stronghold also. The Vakaliga stronghold of the JDS. So there is another political issue hanging over there. And BJP wants to break the hegemony or the issue of leadership of Siddaramaiah, of the Ahilda, that is the acronym for the backward, scheduled caste and the minorities. So Siddaramaiah is sort of undisputed leader of these groups, and BJP wants to break this by questioning Siddaramaiah's personal integrity over these issues. So there's a lot for the state government. In the days to come, I think the next few days and weeks would be very, very crucial for the Congress government in Karnataka. It has to, I think, treat very cautiously on many of the issues, politically as well as legally. How the Congress will deal with this and what is the issue, what is the stand the Congress High Command will take would also become crucial. As you mentioned, the governor will have to now take a call on the replies given by the chief minister, and I think right now I think governor is not in town and he will be back by the weekend, and next week I think we are going to see some action on this issue, and if the governor gives his sanction, then I think a whole game will start all over again. The scenario that we saw during the tenure of Yediyurappa, as you mentioned, as the chief minister, Yediyurappa had to finally resign his post, and the political history of Karnataka changed at that time. Jagdish Shettar, Sadanand Gowda, they became chief ministers, and like that, would there be any change in the Karnataka political scene? Okay. We would be the next challenge for the Congress government.
Okay, let me ask Ashwini Dubey this. The fact of the matter is, and this is what the Congress party's contention is, that a sitting chief minister cannot be show cause noticed by the governor. If it is about the nod to sanction for prosecution against an elected chief minister, that has to come through a court of law. Is there legally merit in that argument? Because otherwise, anybody can petition the governor and governor can issue show cause notice to a chief minister. Then what value does it have about being elected in a people's democracy by majority? In this case, Siddaramaiah is elected Chief Minister of the state of Karnataka by majority of the people of that state. How can the governor, who is an unelected representative, show cause an elected representative?
Yes, Jaka, the governor possesses executive, legislative, financial and judicial powers that are more or less analogous to those President of India. But Article 154 of the Indian Constitution, which says the governor has executive power over the state, which he may exercise himself or through officers subordinate to him in conformity with the Constitution. Now the question is, if it is a show cause notice, then of course the powers are limited. But if it is in form of inquiry, that the complaint has been submitted before the governor is stating that there is a sorry state of affairs, and since the allegations are against the Chief Minister itself, and therefore that needs to be investigated. So in the form of a reply that these are the allegations, exercising his legislative powers and executive powers, governor may ask through an officer subordinate to him. So directly governor cannot write to the Chief Minister. But yes, through an officer working under him, being the head of the state, governor under Article 154 is empowered to call for the reports. So if it is that, then governor is empowered. But if it is a show cause notice, asking an explanation for the Chief Minister itself, though the powers are very limited there. That is what the Constitution says. But if we see the governor's executive powers, he is the executive branch of the government that is led by him. So he can exert his power directly or indirectly through his subordinate officer, and he is in charge of the state's executive functions. And one of the governor's most important responsibility, since it is to appoint the Chief Minister of the state. So from there, the powers are derived because the governor is the person who appoints the Chief Minister. So, and also appoints the other ministries based on the Chief Minister's recommendations. But Jaga, let me very clearly, it should not be misconstrued that the show cause notice can be issued by a governor directly to the Chief Minister.
Okay, so Lavanya Vallal, you have Ashwini Dubey saying that yes, a Chief Minister can be issued a show cause notice if the charges against him or her are grave enough. The governor of the state can issue a show cause notice, which is what Mr. Thaawarchand Gehlot has done in the case of Karnataka, in the case of Mr. Siddaramaiah, asking him to explain what about these charges against his immediate family members. After all, you cannot expect any of the other members of the Council of Ministers to respond when the allegation is against the Chief Minister's wife.
Zaka, the activist Abraham has no rights to seek prosecution sanction while a judicial probe is underway. So if he has done that, that is not legal. And when the guy has approached the governor, his actions are not legal, then how is it that the governor has responded to an action which is not legal? That is the basic question. When a judicial probe is underway, the activist has no right to seek prosecution sanction. Simple. He has, and based on that, when it is not legal, our question is, how did the governor respond with the show cause notice?
No, but Lavanya Vallal, the same activist, Mr. Abraham, back in 2012, 2013, the same activist sent a letter to the governor at that time, and the governor show cause notice the Chief Minister at that time, Mr. Yediyurappa, and eventually Mr. Yediyurappa had to step down from his post in the illegal mining scam. It is the same activist. He has done this against the BJP also when the BJP had a Chief Minister, and he is doing it against your Chief Minister. So what is the question of bias?
Zaka, I have no questions about did he file a case against Yediyurappa, did he file a case against Bommai, or did he file a case against Siddaramaiah?
Yes.
Legally, I'm talking about a legal point here, Zaka. When there is a judiciary probe going on, he has no right to seek an prosecution, sanction against the CM. And he has done that with the governor. And that action of his is not legal. Our contention right now is the governor has acted on not a legal approach of this activist. We are not questioning his credibility. We are not looking into his past. All we are saying is when the judiciary probe is on, he had no right to seek this legally. And he's done that. And the governor has chosen to react to it.
Okay, let me ask Sudha Halkai. So, this same activist moved against Yediyurappa when Yediyurappa was Chief Minister in the illegal mining scam. Yediyurappa had to step down as Chief Minister. The same activist is doing the same thing against the current Chief Minister, Mr. Siddaramaiah. The point that the Congress is making is there's already a judicial probe. Why should an activist move the governor when the courts have been activated on this matter? Let the courts take cognizance of it. If at all they find merit in this case, let them issue a notice to the Chief Minister. Let the Chief Minister respond. Why should this gentleman, kind of create a parallel channel of communication by asking the governor to respond? And the governor now has sent a showcause notice to the Chief Minister, which is unheard of. No governor has sent a showcause notice to an elected representative of the people of the state.
Zaka, it's been 15 months that the people of Karnataka have witnessed the most irresponsible, incompetent government in the history of Karnataka. It's once the elections were over and these people won with mandate, the story started with the corruption of for the transfers. And now it has come to an ended with the STSC scams and Valmiki Nigam scams. The Congress spokesperson is asking about the rights of the activist Ibrahim. Now let she answer whether the Chief Minister, who is a custodian, has the rights to transfer the Valmiki Nigam funds to other states for their elections, where it is used for the purchase of Lamborghini, where it is used by the goldsmith and whatnot. Is the Chief Minister, does the Chief Minister has the rights? According to the Constitution, 18% of the funds should be reserved for the STSC. And for no purpose it has to be diverted to any other purpose. Does the Chief Minister has the rights to divert these funds, these rights to the to the guarantees?
Okay.
No. There in the parliament, 1 minute, just 10 seconds. In the parliament, these people put crocodile tears for the OBC people. OBC,
okay. Lavanya Ballal, and then I'll give the final word to B.S. Arun. Lavanya Ballal, Sudha Halkai is saying that if Yediyurappa was showcause noticed by the same activists, why shouldn't the same rule apply to Mr. Siddaramaiah?
I repeat, we are not saying he should not send a notice. All we are saying is when a judiciary probe is on, legally he does not have the prosecution right to ask for prosecution sanction. It is a legal matter.
Okay.
We are not asking why is he sending it. We are asking him when a judiciary probe is on, he cannot do this. That's all.
Okay. B.S. Arun, the point is what may be the political impact of this, because in 2012-13, Mr. Yediyurappa was forced to step down. In the case of Mr. Siddaramaiah, will he be forced to step down? Because there is also this internal political dimension to it, with D.K. wanting the Chief Minister's job and this whole thing about after the Lok Sabha elections, Mr. D.K. Shivakumar is sort of asserting himself, wanting to get the top job, so on and so forth. How does that dynamic play within this larger question of corruption, allegedly, that's been raised by the BJP? Let B.S. Arun respond, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Zaka, that's what I said. In the days to come, then we are going to see interesting political battle. One, the BJP and the Congress slugfest on the political front has already started. And number two, if the governor, initiates any action, then certainly the Chief Minister will move the court. And also the issue of what Mr. Dubey was mentioning, the powers of the governor, I think, will come into question before the court. And Siddaramaiah might be asking the court as to whether the governor really has the power. I think the court might settle that issue also. That may be a landmark, judgment. But as of now, I think I see Siddaramaiah being in a tight spot, and he will have to, come out of this first. And how the Congress High Command will behave in case the action starts, and the Chief Minister, the question mark will be there on the Chief Minister chair, because already Mr. D.K. Shivakumar, the current Deputy Chief Minister, is angling for the Chief Minister's post. So there will be certainly a power struggle within the Congress, like we saw earlier.
Well, let's leave it at that. Thank you very much, B.S. Arun, Lavanya Ballal, Sudha Halkai, and of course, Mr. Dubey for joining us. We'll take a quick break here on the program. We're coming to you live from the CNN News 18 and Brass Tacks Federal Bank Primetime Studio. We'll take a quick break. When we come back on the other side of this CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio, we will shift focus to international stories, and the Democratic National Convention's virtual roll call has begun. In the next few days, they will endorse Kamala Harris to be the official Democratic Party nominee to take on Donald Trump. But what is the challenge that Kamala Harris faces? Of course, she is the first woman of color to be the candidate of a major party. But can she beat Donald Trump? And the big question, who is she going to pick as vice president? Because ultimately, she has to win in most of the battleground states if she has to become the first ever woman and woman of color of the United States as president. Quick break. We'll see you on the other side.
माई भाई, मैंने भी इस बार SIP करके म्यूचुअल फंड में पैसे डाले। तो मुझे ये जानना था कि KYC का चक्कर क्या है?
म्यूचुअल फंड सही है .com या अपने म्यूचुअल फंड की वेबसाइट पे जाओ, पैन नंबर डालो और सिर्फ इतना देखो कि तुम्हारा KYC स्टेटस रजिस्टर्ड है या वैलिडेटेड।
रजिस्टर्ड हो तो
आधार और पैन कार्ड के साथ अपना KYC वैलिडेट करो, जरूरी है और ज्यादा वक्त भी नहीं लगता।
और वैलिडेटेड हो तो
सही है।
सही है माई भाई, अब तक इन्वेस्ट किया ना हो तो
KYC कर लो और मैदान में उतरो।
सही है।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
News from the Paris Olympics now. Now, Paris Olympics 2024 has faced a gender row controversy now. Algerian boxer Imane Khalif's swift 46-second victory at Paris Olympics has ignited a heated debate over gender eligibility. And this follows her disqualification from the 2023 World Championship for not meeting the International Boxing Association's gender criteria. Now, in a press statement, the IOC and Paris Olympics organizers affirm that everyone has the right to practice sport without discrimination. The Algerian Olympic Committee has defended Khalif and condemning the foreign media's criticism. They have called it malicious and unethical. They've also asserted their unwavering support for her and dismissed the allegations as baseless propaganda. Now remember, after the match, Angela Carini stated that I have never been hit so hard in my life. It is up to the IOC to judge now. Carini's remarks have garnered widespread support and raised questions about the integrity of the games. Now remember, this entire boxing bout is garnering a lot of criticism and also a lot of conversation about gender eligibility criteria when it comes to the boxing game and otherwise as part of the sport in general. We've had people like even Donald Trump weigh into the controversy, respond to what is happening. This started after Angela Carini in fact had asserted that she was badly hit as far as that boxing bout is concerned, and that's when there were questions raised on the gender eligibility of Imane, and this is what has led to this entire controversy that we are looking at that's coming out of the Paris Olympics. My colleague Anand Narsimhan is with us on the broadcast. Anand, a lot of talk about this boxing bout, even Donald Trump really weighing in. What more can you tell us when it comes to this controversy associated with gender eligibility here?
See, in this case, what is happening is that there is the International Boxing Association has made these, so the IOC has shifted the blame to the IBA, which currently stands banned. They have taken these decisions, so now there is a shifting of blame. But more importantly, women athletes are saying that women discipline should be for women who are naturally women, so the XX and XY chromosome should not be mixed, because it is unfair on women, real women, and that's the whole agenda, because the Italian boxer was very clear. She said she's never been punched so hard. And it's, if she's going to have to fight a man, then she'd rather not fight at all, because it's not supposed to be a mixed discipline. So what happens is in Bharat and in a lot of the other multidisciplinary events locally in many nations, you have male, female, and also the third gender or and that's why there is a separate classification. In this case, what happens is, and this has been a huge debate, and now it's caused a huge furore, because what about the rights of women? And what about games which are women? Because women who are genetically and biologically women, the XX chromosome, they have a different construct, and that's why the physicality is different. And clearly, when the genetics and the biological construct is different, it becomes an unequal sum game there and a competition. And this has been raised in athletics, it's now being raised in boxing, and boxing is a huge contact sport. And this IBA bunglings has also caused someone like a two-time world champion like Nikhat Zareen to have to fight, unseeded. And that's because of this ongoing fracas between the IOC and the IBA. So there are a lot of bunglings which have happened at Paris 2024 across various disciplines, and especially in boxing, this has created a huge, and it's sparked off a big debate, because this whole aspect of ultra-liberalism, wokeism, and in that case, are the real genders.
To meet me on the debate stage. Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say, say it to my face.
The Democratic National Committee holds its virtual roll call on the 1st of August this week. While the roll call itself may be a mere formality because Kamala Harris seems to have garnered the required number of delegates, over 4,000 delegates from all 50 states of the United States will vote to elect the official Democratic nominee. So far, there is no other contestant, which makes Harris's nomination almost a certainty. At the end of the roll call, Kamala Harris will become the first woman of color, first African-American woman, and a person of Indian origin to be a major party's presidential nominee. Kamala Harris is the daughter of immigrants from Jamaica and India. She's had a career with many firsts. She became America's first Indian-American senator back in 2017 when she was inaugurated. She's California's first female and South Asian Attorney General. In 2021, she became the first woman to become vice president, in addition to being the first black or Asian American person as vice president of the United States. She was raised by her Indian scientist mother, Shyamala Gopalan, who emigrated to the United States back in the early 60s as a student. She met Harris's father, Donald Harris, while they were in college at the University of California, Berkeley. If Kamala Harris were to win the general election in November against former President Donald Trump, she would become the first ever woman president of the United States. But this is not the first time that Harris is running for the top job. Harris announced in 2019 that she would run for the White House in the 2020 presidential cycle. But most of her bid at that time was riddled with campaign hiccups. She was never really able to gain momentum in what was a crowded Democratic field, and eventually she had to drop out of the race even before the first primary happened. Interestingly, Harris in that campaign ran further left of Joe Biden, who eventually won the Democratic nomination. A high point in that race was when, during one of the debates, Harris pushed Biden on his previous record when it came to desegregation and busing of students. But that did not stop Biden from picking Kamala Harris as his running mate at the top of the Democratic ticket, which the Democrats went on to win in 2020. Earlier, in her role as California's lead prosecutor, she was criticized for how she championed tough truancy policies when she was the Attorney General for the Sunshine State. Critics also argued that her policies perpetuated inequities in criminal justice system and disproportionately affected families of color. Harris later said that she regretted some of those decisions. During her 2020 presidential bid, Harris challenged Biden to the left on several criminal justice issues like ending solitary confinement or implementing a national standard on the use of deadly force. But her tough-on-crime track record as a prosecutor, a district attorney, and the Attorney General of California during the 1990s and the 2000s is a clear reminder of what a complicated and contradictory legacy she has on criminal justice.
You've seen what's happened to San Francisco. It was the best city maybe in our entire country 15 years ago, and now it's barely livable. That's what she's the one that started. She was an original defunder. She was a defunder of the police.
Despite Kamala Harris's underwhelming performance in the 2020 Democratic presidential primary, Joe Biden still nominated her to be his running mate, making her the first black woman and the first person of Indian origin to be nominated by a major party for national office. The announcement at that time was celebrated by many in the party as a breaking of the glass ceiling. But things got off to a rocky start when she entered the White House. She overstepped in an interview with NBC's Lester Holt when answering why she had not yet visited the border. She also got bad press for the high attrition amongst her staff, and she had consistently low approval ratings early into her tenure as vice president. But Harris found her mojo back with an issue that resonated among most women across America. When the Supreme Court of the United States overturned a long-standing judgment on abortion by cancelling the Roe v. Wade verdict, which had been the cornerstone on this issue since the 1970s, Harris said that the Supreme Court's overturning of that decision galvanized her. She in fact rewrote an entire speech that she was supposed to deliver at an event on maternal health on that very day in 2022. That became the single biggest talking point issue for the Democrats in the midterm elections in 2022, in which the Democrats won big. She became the primary messenger of the Biden White House on abortion and reproductive rights. Additionally, she also campaigned pretty aggressively for gun safety. She's tried to connect with more women and people of color during her tenure as vice president. She was also praised by progressives for a forceful call for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. Throughout her vice presidency, Harris, though, has still struggled to define herself. She's been juggling an issues portfolio that has included very difficult topics like voting rights, for example, and then, of course, the huge tide of immigrants who are coming into the United States illegally from Central America. On the voting rights issue, she made an effort to try and bolster the Voting Rights Act, but that bill failed in the US Congress. On migration, Harris was criticized by those on the right for not spending enough time on the border. In fact, Donald Trump consistently attacks her for being a border czar, as he calls her, and still failing to control the massive influx of illegal entrants into America. But in the days since Biden decided to withdraw and then endorsed her to be the Democratic nominee, she has quickly made the party leadership and the party's rank and file to rally behind her. She's managed to get the support of former Democratic presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh my goodness.
The Democratic leadership in both the House as well as the Senate have also supported her. She's also got the support of more than 24 Democratic governors and tons of senators and representatives. Harris' allies have argued that much of the criticism against her is a result of racism and overt sexism against the country's first woman of color in such a high position. Now they see the entire country, over the last couple of weeks since Biden withdrew, is seeing in Harris what her allies have seen in her for years. But one critical decision she's got to make is who she chooses as a running mate. The polls have shown her to be doing better than Biden against Trump, but crucially, she is still trailing Trump in most of the battleground states, whether it is in the Rust Belt or in the Sun Belt. Here's a look at how the leading contenders for Harris's VP pick line up on critical political skills that they could offer to a Democratic ticket. Of course, their matchup will be against Donald Trump, who is very hard on issues like immigration, women's reproductive rights, and of course, this whole system, as he calls it, the establishment which is out to get him, despite his multiple felony charges and convictions, and also his running mate, J.D. Vance. So, here are the options that Harris has. Number one, Senator Mark Kelly, who represents Arizona. It's also a swing state, and it was Arizona that helped cement Biden's victory 4 years ago. Before Biden dropped out of the race, Arizona was looking increasingly tough for the Democrats. The Harris campaign may be tempted to use Senator Kelly to put that state and its 11 electoral college votes back in play. Kelly had won statewide in Arizona in 2020, and then he won again in 2022 with 51% of the vote. But there is perhaps no swing state more crucial and more big than Pennsylvania. And that means Pennsylvania's Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro is straight away one of the leading contenders to be on the Harris ticket. Shapiro won in 2022. He was the highest vote getter in any gubernatorial election in Pennsylvania's history. In fact, a Fox News poll recently found that 60% of Pennsylvania voters viewed him favorably. That is not an easy feat in what is an extremely divided state. Pennsylvania has 19 electoral college votes. If Kamala Harris were to lose Pennsylvania, which Biden won in 2020, and Hillary Clinton lost in 2016 to Donald Trump, then she would need to win almost every other swing state to get the White House. The third option is Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. He's another top contender, but the electoral college calculus is not in his favor. While Trump has made promises to win Minnesota, he's visited the state multiple times, the state has almost always leaned Democratic when it comes to presidential races. In November, if Harris needs Walz's help to win Minnesota, then she's most likely losing in other must-win states. So it boils down to balancing the ticket. Harris, who is a California liberal, a woman of color, who may have limited appeal in the more rural parts of America, will need a white male candidate to balance out the ticket, much like Obama did when he picked Biden as his running mate. All right, so joining us now is somebody who has predicted the last 10 elections and the results of the last 10 elections in the United States, going back all the way to the 1980s, Professor Alan Lichtman. Thank you very much. He's a professor of history who's now joining us. Professor, thank you very much for joining us here on CNN News 18. First of all, I want to add this caveat. Of course, your final prediction for the 2024 cycle is not out yet. You are saying that your final prediction will be made after the Democratic National Convention sometime in the middle of August. But as of now, your preliminary prediction, which you made in the last week of June, even before Joe Biden withdrew from the race, is that Kamala Harris is projected to be the winner of the presidential race. Can you give our viewers a little more details as to how you've come to this conclusion, this prediction, and the reasoning for this prediction? Why do you think it will be Kamala Harris who will be able to cross the line as opposed to Donald Trump?
By dropping out, Biden cost the Democrats one key, the incumbency key that I mentioned. But Democrats who were shamefully trashing their incumbent president right out in public have gotten smart and united around Harris. She really has no opposition, so they've preserved the contest key. So right now, the Democrats are down three keys with Harris as the nominee. The mandate key, because they lost U.S. House seats in the midterms, obviously the incumbency key, and the incumbent charisma key, because Harris is not an FDR. So that means three more keys would have to fall to predict their defeat. And I only have four shaky keys that are undecided, and three of them would have to fall. That's possible, but not likely. The keys are third party. RFK Jr. would have to stabilize at 10% or more. That seems very unlikely. He's actually going down rather than up, which may be an offshoot of the Harris candidacy, because voters don't have to now choose between two very aged candidates. Social unrest. We've had some sporadic social unrest, but to turn the key, there has to be massive social unrest, like in the 1960s, that threatens the stability of the country. Haven't seen anything like that, and kind of not having Biden, the sitting president, front and center in the campaign may also work to the benefit of avoiding social unrest. And the two shakiest keys, given what's going on in Gaza and Ukraine, are foreign/military failure and foreign/military success. So I have said, as you note, a final prediction will come after the Democratic convention, but right now a lot would have to go wrong for Harris to lose. Could happen, but a lot would have to go wrong.
I do want to ask you, because you are among the few poll pundits, as it were, to give Kamala Harris an upper hand over Donald Trump. We have looked at 10 different polls from the CNN poll to Reuters to Ipsos to the New York Times, 8 out of those 10 polls predict that Trump has the edge, anywhere between 1 to 3% nationally. And more importantly, Trump is leading in all of the 6 battleground states against Kamala Harris. Trump has 48%, while Harris has 46%. What explains this sharp divide, this polarization, the fact that 8 out of 10 polls are predicting a Trump victory, but you are predicting a Harris victory?
You can take early polls and do with them what the great philosopher David Hume said you should do to works of superstition: consign them to the flames. They have zero predictive value, and in this case, you can't go below zero. But the polls are even more incredibly unreliable because Harris has only been the candidate for a week or so. It hasn't really sunk in yet to the American people. So completely throw the polls away. And the most recent polls that I saw that came out today and yesterday show a very different picture. Harris actually ahead in the national vote and even or ahead or slightly behind in the swing states. But leave that aside. As I said, no predictive value. Plus, the error in these polls are much greater than the pollsters tell you, and they're not random. You've heard, of course, the error margin, right, is plus and minus about 3%. That's pure statistical error. That's the error you would get if you had a big jar of green and red balls and you pulled a sample to estimate the percentage of green and red balls in the jar. But human beings are not green and red balls. Most people don't respond to pollsters. They may lie. They may not have focused on the election and may change their mind. Plus, no one's voted yet. So the pollsters have to guess who the likely voters are. That creates a very large margin of error above and beyond the plus and minus 3. That's not random. In 2016, the pollsters underestimated Republican voting strength. So like generals fighting the last war, they overcorrected and they're now underestimating Democratic voting strength. In the 2022 midterms, the off year, and the special elections, Democrats, when there's actual voting, have been outperforming the polls by 5 percentage points or more. The most indicative election was the most famous, the special election in Congress in New York for the seat previously held by the disgraced George Santos. A poll taken just a couple of days before the election had it as a dead heat. Democrat +1. The Democrat won by 8 points, outpolling the polls by 7.
Okay, so let me ask you, obviously Joe Biden had a very dismal performance in the CNN debate against Donald Trump, yet you feel that Biden stepping back in favor of Harris is actually working for the Democrats. If yes, what are the reasons? And more importantly, the assassination attempt. We've had 2 big events that have happened in the last month and within the space of a week. You had the assassination attempt on Donald Trump on the 13th of July, and within the space of a week, Biden withdrew and endorsed Harris to be the Democratic candidate. What are the implications of both of these news events on the candidacy, on the respective candidates, whether it's Donald Trump for the Republicans or Kamala Harris for the Democrats? Or do you believe that the news cycle and news events, as big as they may be, as cataclysmic as they may be, do not have an impact on the race itself and who the eventual winner is?
I already explained the impact of the Harris candidacy. We went over that in detail. The Trump assassination attempt, the convention, zero effect on my keys. The keys are the North Star of prediction. They remain unchanged despite the ebb and flow of campaign events. Every 4 years, someone comes to me and says, you got to change your keys because we have something so different this year. We have an African American running. Never had that. The nation will never elect an African American. We have a woman running. We have social media. We have a presidential candidate on tape bragging about sexually assaulting women. Surely you have to change your prediction of a Trump win. And of course I don't, because the keys incredibly robust. Retrospectively, they go all the way back in development to 1860, when we had no women voting. Most African Americans were enslaved. We were an African American economy. No automobiles, no airplanes, no radio, no television. So the Keys have endured vastly greater changes than we see in individual elections. Plus, you try to change your model on the fly, that's a sure recipe for error.
Okay, so let me ask you a final question. What do you feel is the major difference between a Biden Democratic ticket and a Harris Democratic ticket, particularly when it comes to enthusing the base, the Democratic base, as you said? What is it about Kamala Harris that is appealing to the Democratic base, to the voters? Is it women because she's made abortion a central point of her campaign? Is it people of color? Because, of course, it would be history in the making if she were to be elected as the first woman and woman of color to be elected president of the United States. And then, of course, you go back to the 2016 cycle and people said the United States of America is not ready to have a woman as the president of the country. What has changed from 2016 to now?
There's an old Zen saying, unask the question. That's the wrong question to be asking me. You cannot predict elections by trying to parse out who candidates appeal to, who candidates don't appeal to, what might happen in this state or that state. That is an impossible way to predict elections. That's why I have the keys, which are integral parameters that transcend all of those individual events, attempts to, predict bottom up. Give the example of your cup of tea. You pour sugar in your tea. You can't learn anything by trying to follow the individual sugar molecules. But through some simple integral parameters, you can learn a lot, like sweetness and density. That's the beauty of the keys. They deal with the simple integral parameters of incumbent performance and strength that transcends all of these really inaccurate measures to try to predict elections. That's one of the reasons why so many of the analysts, almost all of them, were wrong about 2016. They were wrong about 2012, when after Obama's disastrous first performance in the debate, the polls turned against him. They were wrong about 1988, when George Bush fell 17 points behind Dukakis in June of the election year.
Okay. Professor Alan Lichtman, thank you very much for joining us. We will be in touch with you. We will be very keenly watching whether your 13 keys are able to predict this year's winner as well. Of course, for now, you are predicting that Kamala Harris has the edge. Your final prediction will be after the Democratic National Convention, which is in the third week of August. That was Professor Alan Lichtman, the man who's got the last 10 elections, prediction of the last 10 elections in the United States, all the way back to the 1980 election cycle when he predicted that Ronald Reagan would win. That's a wrap of Brass Tacks, coming to you live from the CNN News 18 and Brass Tacks Federal Bank Primetime Studio. From me, Zaka Jacob, and the rest of the team, we'll catch you again tomorrow night, same time. Thank you very much. Good night.
And why not create a separate discipline and a separate category which, for anybody can classify it as fluid, and whoever wants to, however they identify themselves, they can go ahead and participate in that third gender or the other gender category, and create at least there is a fair play and a fair on an even keel for women, biologically women and biological men. So that is something which is now a huge debate that's sparked off. There are multiple points of view to this. You have to give the freedom to identify some people, to identify however they identify themselves. But is that loophole, is that freedom being abused? And what about the freedom and the rights of those who are biologically men or women? So that is where the debate is. And somewhere at multidiscipline sports, where it creates a certain level of inequality, it impinges upon the basic rights of real women, basic rights of real men. And that's why sporting bodies across the world need to think about creating a separate classification and create a separate stream itself for qualification, for participation, and give everybody a fair chance. I think that's where the argument is. The argument is about fairness. And fairness has to be both ways. You know, in trying to be fair to one, you cannot be unfair to the other.
Absolutely. Anand, thank you so much for all of the details there. So gender row hitting the Paris Olympics 2024. Let's see where does it go from here. We are news from the Paris Olympics now. Now, Paris Olympics 2024 has faced a gender row controversy now. Algerian boxer Imane Khalif's swift 46-second victory at Paris Olympics has ignited a heated debate over gender eligibility. And this follows her disqualification from the 2023 World Championship for not meeting the International Boxing Association's gender criteria. Now, in a press statement, the IOC and Paris Olympics organizers affirm that everyone has the right to practice sport without discrimination. The Algerian Olympic Committee has defended Khalif and condemning the foreign media's criticism. They have called it malicious and unethical. They've also asserted their unwavering support for her and dismissed the allegations as baseless propaganda. Now remember, after the match, Angela Carini stated that I have never been hit so hard in my life. It is up to the IOC to judge now. Carini's remarks have garnered widespread support and raised questions about the integrity of the games. Now remember, this entire boxing bout is garnering a lot of criticism and also a lot of conversation about gender eligibility criteria when it comes to the boxing game and otherwise as part of the sport in general. We've had people like even Donald Trump weigh into the controversy, respond to what is happening. This started after Angela Carini in fact had asserted that she was badly hit as far as that boxing bout was concerned, and that's when there were questions raised on the gender eligibility of Imane, and this is what has led to this entire controversy that we are looking at that's coming out of the Paris Olympics. My colleague Anand Narsimhan is with us on the broadcast. Anand, a lot of talk about this boxing bout, even Donald Trump really weighing in. What more can you tell us when it comes to this controversy associated with gender eligibility here?
See, in this case, what is happening is that there is the International Boxing Association has made these, so the IOC has shifted the blame to the IBA, which currently stands banned. They have taken these decisions, so now there is a shifting of blame. But more importantly, women athletes are saying that women discipline should be for women who are naturally women, so the XX and XY chromosome should not be mixed, because it is unfair on women, real women, and that's the whole agenda, because the Italian boxer was very clear. She said she's never been punched so hard. And it's, if she's going to have to fight a man, then she'd rather not fight at all, because it's not supposed to be a mixed discipline. So what happens is in Bharat and in a lot of the other multidisciplinary events locally in many nations, you have male, female, and also the third gender, or and that's why there is a separate classification. In this case, what happens is, and this has been a huge debate, and now it's caused a huge furore, because what about the rights of...
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post, and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. As West Asia remains on the brink of a wider conflict, the global economy is showing signs of stress. America is facing fresh recession fears. AI is bleeding big tech. Chip makers like Intel are losing cash. Layoffs have been ordered. In China too, the economy is showing no signs of recovery. So Xi Jinping is attempting an image makeover with some help from Chinese mouthpieces. A new controversy has erupted at the Paris Olympics over the gender of an Algerian boxer